service and everything else.
I don't know if the camera tells you to go jump off a big bridge.
Yeah, what do you do when they say it's
You say, well, we need the information, I got nowhere to get it.
Get up to there.
There's,
Right there.
oh, no.
Quiet yesterday.
I'm gone. Can I let it go to the committee?
I almost moved it just to screw through. I almost got in the truck and moved it, but when did that thing figure out this truck is gone? Wouldn't that have been fun? That would have been fun. I was sat here and watched out the window and thinking about it.
It's kind of
No, I just thought I'd move it just to mess with your mind.
I felt so bad when I was going to keep
He's at it.
18, 20.
He's worse than the truck, right?
23 to 18 in a while.
And my father's issue always was, if it didn't have a ring key, never make it.
What's that? How's everything in the city? They just lost.
No, he always had 3 keys and then his 2 keys.
It didn't take any time though. My granddaughter gets hurt, not even in a position, the rep calls. So if the boss, she's not even in a position. What a terrible guy, that's right.
Transmission.
Terrible.
I was out there for the day weekend.
You could come with keys anyway. Welcome, meeting. October 7th. Let it be noted there was no need for order station meeting this month. So we're going into the regular minutes. Any letters, communications to the board? There are none. Approval of the minutes for May 8th, August 12th.
There's them on there.
No. They don't have those back yet, so we're not going to recommend them for approval.
Not yet.
Okay. He was hoping, but I've been a little lax in my duties, so. Comments and presentations regarding the agenda items? None? Staff reports, Mr. Davis.
All right, a couple things I'd like to highlight in the report is
How to use it.
we've met with PFAR several times throughout the period regarding startup and operational requirements. Pleased to report that so far in the 14 days ending the end of September, there had been a total of 120 folks that had used the airline, about 60 plus in, 60 plus out. It was like 62 in, 63 out. It appears, service appears promising. The schedule options are being well received, and I'm told that it's booking up on a regular basis. As far as the Port of Ogdensburg, it's been pretty busy there. A couple things I'll highlight there. We continue to negotiate rates for heavy lift cargo or potential cargo. We've also prepared a quotation on a potential mineral shipment for Q1 2009. We've continued discussions and negotiations with Bayern throughout the period. As you know, we promoted the Port Access Road and submitted the Passenger Freight Assistance 2005 Transportation Bond Act application. As well, we've conducted a review of the North Country Freight Needs Study. That's the Port Master Plan that's coming up. As far as the bridge, you see the 2 items there. The railroad, got a lot of activity this month. We've had discussions with DOT in New York and Ogdensburg regarding future projects. We have determined the historical status of the Church Street Bridge in Lisbon that we'll talk about tonight. We negotiated the scope of work to be performed on the authority's rail line as part of the grant application that went in recently. And on a quick note, staff has done a lot of work on putting together the application for both the Port of Ogdensburg and the New York and Ogdensburg Railway as well. We've also, under internal activities, one key thing there, we restarted the CSEA Labor Management Committee meetings. All these are required by contract. We've not had one in 3 years, so it was about time. So we got that underway as well. So we're moving forward, moving ahead. And be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Board members have any questions?
I do, just point of information. And the planes we've had in the past were a little bit bigger, I guess, whatever it may be. This plane, I guess it's a downsize, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the ride is like. I mean, so probably the public want to know what the ride is really like, that type of plane versus the other size plane. I guess my question is, at what point do they upsize to a bigger plane?
Actually, their business model, Cape Air's business model does not. They fly what's called it's a Cessna 402B, which looks like that. It's a 9-passenger aircraft.
9 includes the co-pilot seat.
Yes. And what they do is, if they were to have more than 9, they would add a second plane. So
that's the style 8.
That's correct. That's correct.
One of my co-workers took it out of Messina and said, although it was, rougher than a jet, for example, she thought it was right.
I'm scheduled on it for next month. I'm looking forward to it. It's
It was a little easy, but she said it was good. It was on time and early both ways, so.
We just had someone flying from Albany from OMH as well, and they commented on it, said it was a good ride.
My only concern is right now everything's really kind of get excited about that, and then they forget when it comes to less climate weather with visual landing only, that probably will have some problems with fog and snow and that sort of thing.
Well, yes and no. Part of the difference of Cape Air's operating strategy, they're attempting to base a plane here in Ogdensburg that has its own unique challenges associated with it at present. But there are a different set of rules for taking off versus landing. And so that fog that may delay a flight that's coming in will not delay a flight going out. So that's a change as well. Plus, again, there's also the direct service to Albany, where before it was Messina, Ogdensburg, Watertown, to your destination. Now it's just Ogdensburg direct destination.
Do we have any numbers with the other airports that like to see it?
I haven't seen that yet.
Thank you.
Real quickly, on the TWIC program, do we require that all contractors entering the port have the identification cards?
All authority personnel, ILA and CSEA, have that card. There are some exceptions to that. So you want to walk through some of the exceptions?
Yeah, Jim, basically anybody that has access to our secure area, so like if we're offloading a boat, or basically when a ship is in, anyone with a TWIC card will be allowed unescorted access. But if, say, you were a contractor and you came in, so long as you're working, you need our regular, either a temporary working badge or a contractor badge, and then you'd have to be around. There's certain parameters that you need a certain amount of people around you you can work unescorted in that area.
But if you have contractors that have the TWIC cards, you're allowed to go unescorted.
Yeah. And I think
was that a mobile?
Yes.
Year that came up?
Yep.
You plan on doing that again?
No, you've got to have a certain amount of, I think that the limit was, I think it was like 50 or 60 people. So, yeah, if you have the demand for that amount of people, then we would do that.
Now, the businesses that haul salt and things like that, do they all go get TWIC cards?
No, they've got our IDs, and generally speaking, they won't be anywhere near this. Right.
We have a lot of regional companies come in as well. Uncle Sam Boat Tours was here. What are some of the other companies?
There was Horns Ferry, Uncle Sam's Boat Tour. All the rail people got theirs. We encourage people, but it is $132. Yeah,
$132.50.
but and we try to make everybody aware of it. The transportation people aware of it, so it does make life easier if they all have it.
Any more questions? Move on to the Chief Financial Officer, Mark.
I don't have anything new have a spot in my report here. Just to let you know, the operating budget for the year we're in right now, 08-09, was approved in writing. So we received that back with no changes from the DOB. And we'll be starting next year's this month. So pretty good timing there, I suppose. And on page 8 of our report is the bush traffic report. Just to point out a couple of things here. In September, we see the auto crossings are down 7.6%. I believe that's the first month in about 16 months where we've gone down. So that's kind of a new trend. Or hopefully it's just a one-time thing. But just to make you also aware, the year before, we saw some pretty hefty double-digit increases. So there were some 18, 22, 23% increases from the year before. So it's not like we're dropping drastically.
Mark, do you get numbers from like Alex Bay and Bridge, whatever, how their numbers are, percentages?
We do get that, I believe, monthly. I have not put that together to see how their traffic's really.
I mean, is the trend kind of follow the same, or has in the past?
Generally, they're both a little bit more volume than us.
Oh, I know they have more volume. I just wondered if like their trend went down 10%.
I don't track it that closely.
Oh, okay.
But I can take a look.
You want to see that in the paper? Nothing else about it?
It was just the paper.
Yeah.
Was it? And we also get one of the Public Water Operators Association, PBOA. We get crossing data as well from Quebec all the way to Michigan. So we do have access to these reports.
Any questions of mine? Okay. We'll move on to the Director of Industrial Development, Mr. Reish.
I think we have a pretty good application in that we just filed, $1.3 million for the Port Access Road. A lot of good groundwork was laid for that in terms of preliminary engineering and design and drawings, estimates. So I think it's a strong application. Hopefully DOT will favorably upon that. We also put in one for $1.7 million, road from New York to Ogdensburg Railroad. $2.7 million, thank you. Most of that's improvements on the main line, mile close to 925, I believe. If all that's approved, implemented, we'd be much farther along in terms of reaching 286,000 pound capacity on the railroad.
And that's based on Mr. Hefta's triaging of what he'd like to see done on the rail, right?
Yes, that was a negotiation between the OBPA and the New York and Ogdensburg on the scope. As a matter of fact, it's a document I passed out right before the meeting. It's at the 2.7 million.
I mean, he came to tell us what he thought were the most important things. Those were taken into consideration when you wrote this grant.
Yes.
Yeah, his main concern was, I think,
Upgrading the rails.
from north, from mile 25 to 29, and there is a component in there for that.
Yeah, $500 million on the North Fork branch line to address that.
Everybody on staff reviewed the draft interim report for the North Country Freighting Authority comprehensive plan for Port of Ogden. They did a good job with data collection and analysis of some of our facilities, but they needed to do more work with it, and we hope to have a final report shortly and a steering committee shortly, probably November sometime. We continue working and have quoted and are negotiating for the heavy lift cargo for 2009. We're working on additional port cargoes as noted there. Next week, we'll be exhibiting at the Breakboat Conference in New Orleans. We received word from the Joint Economic Development Committee that should be a $10,000 grant that was approved by National Grid, which is something new and unique to us to put up a billboard in the Ottawa area. We haven't picked the site out yet, and we'll be working on that with the city. This is a kind of very preliminary sketch of what the billboard will look like. It focuses on the shell building principally, and it'll have our contact information on it. I spoke with Kim on that just because it is focusing on the shell building, but it is for the benefit of the entire region through the Joint Economic Development. we'll get that place hopefully November, December sometime, and it'll run for 4 months, and we'll see if that goes. Also working on bulk mailing. Hope to send that out later on this month, and we'll be doing business to those companies in Thunder. And made a couple calls up in Montreal last week, one to an industrial prospect for the Shell building, and a port prospect we're working on. And we'll also be exhibiting at Highway H2O Conference in Toronto, November 4th and 5th. Won't be here for the next board meeting. Glad to answer any questions. So you don't have to ask people.
Questions? Director of Operations.
Just want to touch on a few things. In the industrial park, our maintenance crew has done a really good job of, they've cut out a lot of kind of iffy spots in the asphalt, and they've spent the last probably 10 days repairing work down at the port, and we've replaced a drop inlet at the port, and they did one up here, and they did a really fine job of repairing a lot of potholes and things around the park. It'll get us through the winter pretty good, so wanted to mention that. On the bridge, Green and Peterson continues to work toward getting some preliminary drawings out, and they did send me kind of an updated schedule of the project. And just for your information, we're looking probably to bid that project somewhere in February, and still on schedule for an April start. So that was just the latest I've gotten on that.
So you're a little behind on.
Just a little bit, yeah. We were looking for like December, but I think they kind of tightened up that part after the project, when the letting goes, and they've got a schedule for the first week of April for to possibly begin construction. So that would be the most important date to hit there. On the airport, we did bid the hangar development project, and we'll talk about that later. In the port, the final vessel, I believe, Endurance, left the middle of September, and that completes all the windmill components. Just updating on some numbers, I think we're up to around 31 barges. I have 29 in there, but that was kind of an anticipation thing. And we did offload 3,500 tons of road salt to finish out a North American salt contract for 08, and half of that has been sent out, and the other half will be kept for one customer for this winter. American Rock Salt has been shipping roughly 10 to 12 rail cars. We've been offloading 10 to 12 rail cars per day, and currently we have about 7,500 tons down there in the Seaway Bulk Services area. That's worked out pretty good with that, and then we are sending out salt at about 500 tons a day right now. We did get a shipment of corn gluten from Casco by rail, and that's stored in our building number 8. That was unexpected, and well, we planned for it, but it's added business there, so hopefully we'll start shipping that out by truck. And that's about all.
So we had room in building 8, and we didn't have to move anything for the windmills or anything?
Yeah, we had 2 areas. Right when you go in there, there's an area for like roughly, it's about 400 tons on each side. And hopefully, we mentioned to them that we'd like to see that all moved out, and then when the windmills move out, we might have more areas we can find in the spot. But we were looking for them to start selling some of that product locally, so they're working on that.
Questions?
Good to see a lot of port activity. That's great.
Just one thing to add, I completely forgot to put in my report. We're scheduled for a visit from St. Lawrence Seaway. The St. Lawrence Seaway Administrator will be here on site on October 21st as the schedule gets firmed up. We'll send you some details on that. He's coming here for a view of the turbines outbound, and then is going to Wolf Island wind farm as well. So see if we can parallel on that. Go from there.
21st?
October 21st.
Tuesday. Okay. Any questions? Good work up, Steve. Facility committee. Committee reports. Which will be the chairman of the facility?
The facilities committee met at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Had a fairly full agenda. At the airport, we took a look at the hangar transient project bids. There's a resolution in your package that we'll be voting on tonight. The Commerce Park, a couple of HVAC units in building 9, right, Steve? Yes. Yeah, that need replacement. So there's also a resolution in our packet for that tonight. Reviewed the grants for the railroad and the port access road. Again, there's a resolution in your packet tonight to pass a resolution supporting those grant applications. Briefly discussed the demolition of the Church Street Bridge, which is the bridge over the rail in Lisbon. The big ticket item was going over the surplus equipment from the port, which we came up with some minimum prices for all that wonderful equipment that Steve wants to get rid of. And also looked at some quotes for vehicle purchases that, again, we recommended for approval by the full board, but which I think is in tonight's packet, right?
Now, why did that go before the facilities committee as opposed to a money committee? Why would vehicle purchases go before the facilities committee? Why is that a facilities issue?
Fun one. I get all fun ones.
I don't have an answer for that. But, I mean, just because it needed to go before a committee and we were having facilities. There is an ulterior motive there. The other thing that came before the facilities committee as well was the demolition of 1900 4th Street.
Oh, right. Sorry about that one. Which we'd have a resolution for that for the full board also.
Is it, Jim?
That was it.
Personnel committee.
Personnel committee met briefly today at 3 o'clock. We have a resolution in the package tonight regarding authority's attendance policy. We had a short discussion regarding staffing at the toll booth, which we'll be considering further going forward. And we, related to the personnel committee, Sam and I have met several times recently regarding the executive director's evaluation. We're proceeding with that and should finish at this point.
Okay.
That's it.
Any questions on Don's report? Unfinished business? And some activities? Schedules the upcoming board meeting. What's the 4th on? Election day?
Yes, it is.
Anybody got a problem with that? You want Obama's party? Okay, moving right along. Business items.
Sorry, Paige.
Under general administration, there's approval and acceptance of the 2008-2009 operating and capital budget that you see there before you on page 12. Just as a quick refresher, budgeted expenditure $2.7 million. Under the bridge fund, under the port fund, $2.8 million, for a total bridge and port of $5.5 million overall.
I'll move that. Okay. Moved by Bill, do we have a second?
Second.
Jim, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So,
Second item is item A2, approval of different contract guidelines. There are a couple of changes here. Probably at this point, it'd be a good chance to have Mark walk us through that. Mark?
Yeah, sure. The procurement contract guidelines is an existing policy that we follow when we purchase goods and services and personal services. I have not changed it dramatically. We are required to look at it every year by the comptroller's office. One technical thing I changed, the very first kind of material change, if you can even call it that, is I changed the title from procurement policy to procurement contract guidelines, as there's a definition of the law in the law specifically stating procurement contracts. And there's other procurements we make that don't fall under this, such as utilities, telephones, things like that. So that's just kind of a technical jargon. In the policy, there's a procurement contract definition, and we changed the dollar amount of that definition from $10,000 down to $5,000, which is where it was previously. And again, what I did was I kind of pulled out the law, and the law basically states a procurement contract is anything for $5,000. So we're kind of held to that dollar amount.
Wouldn't it make more sense if it's called contract procurement guidelines? Is that a state? Is that a state definition?
Yeah, procurement contract is what the state defines, is the term they use. Yeah.
So it is the
I was thinking along with salaries.
Departmental supervisors authorize invoices prior to payment. Something we're doing now. That's not in the report. It kind of says we authorize receiving reports. Not all the time do we get receiving reports. Sometimes we just get a plain old invoice. So I've added the word invoice in there to replace receiving report. More often than not, Steve and John and myself are signing invoices as opposed to receiving reports. And the dollar value for the requirement to use a purchase order, which is just really an internal purchase order. Some vendors require it, but it's more on the lines of proper authorization for a purchase. We presently use $2,500 as the cutoff. In the old policy, that was a recommended policy. I just changed that word recommended to required. Last year we had 25 purchase orders. It's not a big job to put a purchase order out there. So I got rid of recommended and made it required for $2,500. And one thing I forgot to put in here, there was a section defining printed materials, which was exactly the same as goods and services, so I just erased the printed materials, which is defined as a goods and service.
With that amendment, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Next item up is approval of A3, approval of a lease supplement with T-based communication. This is the T-based communication space started October 31st, 2008. This is a lease supplement at $11.50 per square foot per year for 1 year commencing November 1st, 2008, expiring October 31st, 2009. Cost for utilities is included in the rental rate. Also included in the agreement is requirement T-based provide proof of appropriate insurance, naming what we do as insurance.
Now, when you say the cost for utilities is included in the rental rate, is that standard language that we've been using that says we're going to that the utilities are subject to review and if they exceed a certain percentage amount?
I don't think so, not in bridge administration building it. This is
You feel like this is a pretty okay number?
Yeah, it's $2 to $3, I think, bridge administration buildings, a dollar amount.
Okay.
If it was a multi-year lease, we could throw that in there.
Make a motion, Mary?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
No? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Agenda item A4 is approval of purchase vehicles. This is the loose one. The authority's 0809 fiscal year budget included funds to purchase a vehicle and a pickup truck in the amount of $18,000 and $25,000 respectively. Staff reviewed the New York State contracts for these vehicles and recommended that the authority purchase the Chevrolet Equinox all-wheel drive at a cost of $21,517.33 and a Ford F-150 four-wheel drive pickup at $23,385.28. And Steve has some additional information.
Just to note that the pickup does include a plow package. I see. Yes.
What's the gas mileage for each one of these, please?
17 to 24 for the Equinox.
Do we know what a Chevy Impala Flex Fuel would be for gas mileage, please?
Do you know that, Steve?
I'm sorry, Mary.
Do we know what a Chevy Impala Flex Fuel mileage would be? We are under an administrative order to buy flex fuel vehicles, so I'm looking to see what would have flex mileage like.
And I saw that, Mary, I think it was 22 to 24.
I think it's more like 26 if you look at cars recently.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who are the vehicles for? The one will replace the 99 Buick, that one. And then the one pickup will replace, currently I've got to keep one.
It's all
I mean, by the time we get this one, but I'm gonna, those trucks, that'll be a surplus for,
No. Only next, to spring.
That'll
be rolled into the fleet, right? Just to give you an idea, so that 75% of our vehicles are 5 years or older.
Do we really need to discuss this tonight without having Mark give us some sort of analysis of what our fuel, and when I say fuel, I mean gasoline consumption costs have been for the authority? You know, we're cutting paperclip budgets around here. We're asking for givebacks, and now we look like, to most people, we're buying luxury item vehicles. And no offense, I'd like to know how we're going to get our gas costs under control at $4 a gallon. I mean, right now it's looking like it's going down, but I just think this is premature until we have some sort of analysis of whether our fuel budget's in line with what it should be and what we're spending, and not to know what the mileage is for a flex fuel. And I was here when Danny Dupree was here, and we had to start buying flex fuel vehicles. I don't know how we can get away without buying both of these being flex fuels. I know Chevy Impalas come as flex fuels because my babysitter has one, and I know she gets at least 26 miles a gallon, but I'd like some information on that as to, and I don't understand why something like this, which has expenditure of money, went to the facilities committee, regardless of whether it was meeting at 3 o'clock.
Well, let me address that one head on. Equipment purchases are traditionally routed through the facilities committee. When we purchase a loader, it goes through the facilities committee.
And we're using it on the facility, that's
Everything else goes through the facility committee for equipment.
Facilities. Well, Mary, are you looking to table these until you get the information?
I'm not looking for anybody to move it. You only have to table it if it's moved, if I'm correct.
Well,
And
I'm asking you what you want.
premature to even make a motion on this or bring a resolution without some sort of analysis of our budget as to what our fuel costs are.
Okay, let's move on then.
But one question I want to ask, where do we buy flex fuel?
Not available. Not available.
But they can have it pump out here, but you don't have to use the flex fuel. I'm telling you, there's an administrative order. And by 2010, we have to, I think it's 2010, we have to have all of it.
We have Executive Order 111 specifies that 80% of your vehicle purchases be flex fuel.
I don't think it's 80%. I think
Under that
it's
scenario, we would have to purchase 5 vehicles and have 4 of them flex fuel.
No, that's not
We only
the way it
have to
works.
qualify.
That's not the way it works.
No, Mark, I need to speak up here. And I didn't, regulation.
80% of the purchases for 2008 should be flex fuel. So if you buy 2 cars and one of them's out, you're at 50%, you're on compliance. So if you buy 2 cars, both cars need to be flex fuel to be in compliance with the law. Next year is 90%, in 2009.
We didn't talk about that. We didn't bring it out of facilities then.
We did.
So why are we proposing to have one that's not flex fuel?
I don't know, wait.
Facilities, you need to discuss your order. I brought up a facility. We talked about the 80%, but we was total fleet. It wasn't per year. It is what it was explained to us. I think we definitely can move on that one this time.
Are there certain vehicles, this is through the state contracts, the pre-approved vehicles. The flex fuel for Impala right now hasn't come out yet for 09. When I asked the Chevy dealer on that, there wasn't any state contract price in place for that one, but there will be. They didn't know how, they didn't know when that would happen. But there are alternative fuel state contracts. There's other vehicles out there that are E85 or flex fuel ones.
There's no emergency on this, is there?
Huh? This can wait.
Well, is this just a regular fleet car that everybody takes, this Equinox that you're looking for the vehicle? Yeah, it's a standard vehicle. Replacing the red one with rotation? Yes.
Why do we, can you tell me on the standard vehicles, it has two in here. It's a 4x2, which is four-wheel, which is a front-wheel drive, and then it says four-door all-wheel drive. Which one are we quoted on? This one has two different models, and the quote in here is a $21,000. Which one are we being quoted on? The 4x2 or the all-wheel drive?
So the all-wheel drive with the...
I know, but you're telling me...
No, because you got delivery, you got 550 you got to add. It's 20 plus 550, which gets you to the 21, right?
So the all-wheel drive is 21,517 for the 2050.
No, but you're telling us the facilities, we said it was two-wheel drive, because I actually sat there and was thinking, well, should we really have a four-wheel drive up here?
Four-wheel drive, we're not. There's your way of already.
The all-wheel drive, ain't they on them little cars?
No, that's an option.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So unit price is $20,967 plus DAS, which I don't know what that.
That's the
Fine with it. So the $20,900 figure is for a front-wheel drive, 4x2. Is that right? So then the 21,500 number is an extra.
Not, it's pennies.
That was a 967.
Well, why didn't we say all-wheel drive?
I don't think it should.
Well, it's in the specs there too, Jim. Mary, 4x2 all-wheel drive.
Yeah, that's the way I thought they come.
No, it says...
4x2, four-door, make and model of vehicle, and it says all-wheel drive.
Typo on the resolution.
No, this is the specs. This is
The specs call for that.
So why is it not 4x2 all-wheel
That was a
drive?
spec I took from the state contract. There could be a misspec there.
Do we know if it's a 4x2 or all-wheel
It's
drive?
all-wheel drive.
It is, not a 4x2,
Correct.
even though it says that.
Yeah, and that could be me. I printed that out and maybe...
Well, this resolution's going back in, we're not going to pass it anyway, so...
Can we mark it with some numbers on some gasoline? Are you here next month? I heard you make a joke that maybe you're going to be gone next month.
I'll be here.
We have it December. You can't wait to be here.
Yes, I think pretty good inventory right there. Fuel.
Well,
No, what equipment takes what?
You gotta go back. It's gotta be flex fuel. Just to meet the requirements. So you can't go with that vehicle.
That's a choice we want to make, yeah.
Well, no, the rules are.
We got it.
Today it was 80% of your fair fleet, now it's 80% of it,
It's 80% of what we purchase.
and you can't go with it.
We got this year.
And some of the auditors notes or something, there was something on that. Remember that?
We got nailed on this, what, 3 years ago? The last audit.
You gotta follow that.
And when Danny Duper was here and knows about flex fuel, he said there's nowhere to buy it. He pretty much said it doesn't matter, it's imposed on all the authorities. It's fine, you gotta do it.
Flex fuel.
Yes, you can. You can convert one of our tanks out here for it.
If they deliver, but you don't, doesn't say you have to use flex fuel.
No, you don't, but my point was for them to impose such a requirement on us, it was restrictive, it was silly, but it didn't matter. We had to do it. And there were no exemptions, we asked.
The general administration, the absentee policy.
For those, I'm putting it in there.
Agenda, this A5 is approval of the tenants policy. You recall back when our independent auditor audited us, there was 2 findings. One finding was that the executive director's time by policy should be approved, should have an approval associated with it. So in order to fix this, we put forth to the Personnel Committee the idea that the executive director's time card should be approved by the chief financial officer, which satisfies the requirement of audit.
the motion? Have a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Disapprove.
Agenda item A6 is request for support for passenger, it's a mouthful, Passenger and Freight Assistance Program and 2005 Transportation Bond Act and Port Program with OBPA as a grantee. In simple language, this is the authority's port access road for $1.3 million. The application was submitted to New York State DOT. This would be a support and board resolution to that effect of the company. Everything after the fact. Sorry, after the fact, the application.
So motion.
So moved.
Bill, seconded by Merrick. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Item A7 is similar in nature, same application program, but this one is for the New York and Ogdensburg Railroad as the grantee. This is for a $2.7 million application. I direct you to the extra packet that you have there.
Is it 2.7 or 2.8?
2.7, the eight's got to change.
Okay.
$2.7 million. This $2.7 million is broken up, $482,500 on the branch line, which is Norfolk to Norwood to Norfolk. The main line has 2.2, $17,500 on the main line, for a total of $2.7 million. There is $120,000 salvage credit on the 4 miles of rail that were replaced as well, and you can see that specific detail on your packet, this sheet.
I'll make the motion. Motion made by Jim, seconded by Sam. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? So ordered.
Item B1 is approval of the contracts for the airport hangar building. You'll recall, this project is one of the 90-10% projects that are out there for DOT. $600,000 from New York State DOT, New York Bridge and Port Authority, $66,667 for a 90-10 mix. There are 3 contracts: the general contract, the electrical contract, and the HVAC contract. The low bid was Danco on the general. On the electrical, it was S&L. Down the mechanical, Northern Mechanicals at the corresponding dollar amounts that you see there.
I'd just like to add there where the dollar amounts are, the $600,000 and the $66,000. That is the grant, but if you take the total bids, the total price is $598,640. The 90% share would be $538,776, and our share would be $59,864. Thanks.
Mark, just out of curiosity, could you explain binder add-on? I'm not sure what that means.
I couldn't do that. Instead of paving the whole area with binders, that is the base course for asphalt. So basically all that would be binder until we've got an apron improvement project going in the next year and a half. So just to be able to have access to there, they just said, let's just throw down basic binder and that'll give them access to the
Like an R2 stall?
What's that? No,
It's just a little bit bigger than these.
yeah.
How long will a binder last us if we can't afford the asphalt?
Well, it'll last
for a long time.
Yeah, it should last for a long time.
30 years has been there.
Yeah. It should last.
Well, a lot of times they use this because, putting top down is, top sometimes is really expensive and it's not that cut. It chips away all the time. You only get 1.5 inches and then it's pushed down to 1 inch. Don't take long. So this stuff here is better as far as I'm concerned. That's what I did.
Structurally, it's strong.
I think the city does this too. They use this stuff they just did my road in front of my house.
So you guys drive me down.
Thank you. Motion to approve?
So, what we do is just, should we write down the financing and participation, because it's really only $586, $140, and So our contribution will be only 10% of that 58. 59,864. All of us got to define. I would make a motion with that, those changes per mark. With these, for the correct amounts.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So,
The next four items under the airport, items 2 through 5, are basically carbon copies of each other. The transfer and storage agreement, the first one up, B2 is a transfer and storage agreement with Don Henline. This agreement expires October 31st, 2008. New agreement would be $180 per month for one period, November 1 through October 31, 2009.
Does that reflect any increase from last term of doing?
165 is where you were?
175.
175?
Yeah.
you want to do all three?
No, we have to do each one individually.
A motion?
I'll move it.
Jimmy moved it. Second. Bill. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next one.
The second one is a B3 transfer and storage agreement, the St. Louis Flying Club. Everything is similar in there.
So moved.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Don. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So,
B4 is a transfer and storage agreement, James Robertson. Same criteria as previous ones.
motion. Jimmy and Sam. All in favor,
One
signify.
question here a second. Are they taking up the same amount of space?
Yes.
Okay.
We will vote on that, right? Yeah.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Next one.
Item B5, similar transfer and storage agreement, this time with Duckman Mechanical.
And they're using that also as
Yes. this is-
Proclaim?
Yes.
Second. Seconded by Don. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
last Sam, but once they school buses use it.
Yeah.
And hook the diesel engines up for our electricity.
Item C1 in the Commerce Park we're going to hold for next time. Item C2, approval of contract with Train for the 9th Industrial Building. Units there are 2 units are 18 years old, no longer effectively provide air conditioning in the building. You can see that staff's listed quotes. Train was the apparent low bidder at $15,800. Based upon price, technical strength, previous experience, and a variety of factors you see there. The employee staff recommends award of the contract to Train for the cost not to exceed $15,800.
I've got a question that applies to agenda items C and E at the same time, so if I can ask it once, that would be helpful, I would imagine. And that's, when we send anything out, it's more than $10,000, we have to get written bids that are open in public, and we don't have to use the contract reporter. How do we get around that for, I'll get to E when we get there, but C and E.
On this one, for example, Mary, I have an estimation of what it's going to cost per unit, and
Right.
I give them on a per unit basis.
Per unit basis?
Yeah.
Is that legit?
I think in this case it is.
I mean, I can come back to you and split them up, but basically,
You need 2 resolutions then.
I don't know.
We're splitting hairs. If that's the worst thing the auditor can find, if you use it per unit basis, we're at about 70.
Well, then where do you draw the line? So it's only three, it's only, so much thousand over. My concern is that once we start the slippery slope of, okay, but it's okay this time. And when you're sending a bid out, asking for multiples, don't people normally say, oh, they want more than one, so they give you some sort of a quantity discount, or, they're already on site, so they already have people mobilized here? Isn't there a good reason to have a public bid opening and that sort of thing for, even for something like this with units?
Yeah, that would be the best practice. Going back to this one, though, our intent was that this was going to be less than 15 grand, I believe, so it's a little higher than we thought.
Or even 15 is more than 10. Is it 10? Isn't 10 or
I want to
11?
talk with the contract reporter. Yeah.
But it's up to you.
What's the contract reporter? Help me with
Contract
that.
reporter is a state regulation.
What's the number for the contract reporter? 15. And 10, though, is our own policy of opening the public bid.
Yeah, that's correct.
But I thought that the bid was 12,000 something, and then there's an add-on for wait. I mean,
No, it was 10, it was...
This is labor and everything in the 15.8.
Right.
But the price of the material was 12 something.
10.5, and then there was 5,000 in there.
I don't know the place. Where's that at? In the facilities meeting, it was there. You got it here somewhere. The breakdown.
10.6, 200.
Right.
No, but Mary, that's, I was just looking at it as a per unit thing, but if you feel that's...
Well, you're below 15,000.
Which is okay with the
No, but
concept.
Mary's saying, where is it?
But our own procurement policy, I shouldn't say that's wrong. Our own policy in which we require a public bid opening is anything 10,000 or over. And I'm sorry, we're almost at 16,000. It's not like 10,197.
For the listing, we'll do it then.
Okay, this is on hold.
I mean, the only other thing here is that, per procurement policy, there are certain times things need to go.
That's not in here. That's not in here. It'd be one thing if we were coming on the heating season, we needed it in because you're afraid things are going to freeze up. You're telling me it's just not as effective as it used to be. I don't see that. I mean, I can't read into this if there's any exigency.
No, and we started with train units, we like to train units, but when I go to when I bid process, I can't request that. It'll be whatever we get. And so that...
But you can still put your the lowest responsive bidder.
No, you can
still spec the train.
Well, I try to stay away from it just because it limits. I mean, we just, sometimes it's a decent unit and we go with it.
Why can't you build your file and say we've had trains and trains have lasted us 18 years as opposed to,
I guess I never looked at it that way.
You just build your case for it.
Well, the spec is what the model want and say or equivalent.
That would also be a valid reason to waive the procurement policy on this. I mean, you just described a perfect exception to the procurement policy.
Well, no, anybody
Or getting your train, yeah.
Who's run the all for the train, right? They all for
Yeah, they did, yeah. No, let's go the right way. What did you expect it to be, under 10,000? No, we've done this in December of last year, and it was around, I think they were 6,500, and knowing things had gone up, I thought, well, I was just thinking it wouldn't be a whole lot more with that, but, when they all came in, and then once I've got numbers, I can't go back. I'm just not going to shop it. I just kind of take what I've got, and I was looking at a per unit basis, but probably looking at it when you combine it, that's the way to go, is just to go out and just put them out there and bid them.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Mark, why wouldn't we just take our procurement policy and make it match with the state's? It's over 15, then it's public bid opening, and you got to go to the New York State Contract Reporter anyways.
Is that a requirement of the authority?
We could. No. So the 10,000 is our own internal number we chose.
Then you're really committed, because now you've got to go through the entire motion to get that entire bid package and put it on.
In all honesty, I didn't really look at the procurement policy in regards. I always had that 15,000 because I talk with Tisha a lot of times on the contract reporter, and I think now that I think of it, I think that's kind of what I know if I know the 10 right now, then that's the way to go. So we can drop that.
But again, I want to assure you that there's no nefarious intentions here.
We know that. This was your votes. No, Steve missed it, he missed it.
All right, item D1 is approval to petition the New York State Department of Transportation. This is regarding the Church Street Bridge in Lisbon. This structure was decommissioned back in 1994. And basically there's been it was flagged by New York State at that time and closed because it was unfit for use. This is a barrier on the rail line in terms of width and precludes future opportunities. So we need to get this taken care of. The good news is there is current year funds out there for this. And what this resolution does, this is basically DOT boilerplate that kicks off the decommissioning process of that bridge. Actually, let me get the words correct here. It's an administrative law process, a public hearing that gets this resolved. Is this a historical structure, though? No, it was determined that it was not. That's correct. It was Hartgen architectural historians were here on site with DOT, the railroad, last month, and it was determined that that structure was not a historic structure. There's a cattle pass over in Madrid that is another question. The jury's still out on that one.
We have to report to the Office of Historic Preservation or like that. I mean, the city, when they do this stuff, we have to go through leaps and steps to make sure and sign off from them. I just want to make sure we don't.
That's what this was. That's what DOT hired Hartgen Associates.
A motion to approve it, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second. That done? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay. The last tonight has us to C2. When quotes were put out, or when the question was put out on the demolition of 1900 Ford Street, we were not expecting the prices that we got. We solicited quotes from 3 firms to demolish the 1900 Ford Street. Optech, ACC, LBI responded. The local folks here. This is a public works contract. Prevailing wages were assumed in that, and based on the price, we were recommending Optech Environmental Services.
So we're going to pull this one, do a public bid, and go to the contract order on this one too, right?
I would not make that recommendation. Here's why. What would be gained by putting this through the contract report? We would be getting the same responses that we have already got.
Can
I answer? I'd like to answer your question. The construction, the demolition season. I mean, you don't want to be demolishing this in the middle of winter.
Why not?
Now worry about frost line here.
That's true.
And we only have 3 people from the city. If you tell me you have somebody from Rochester, somebody from Buffalo, Great Plains, I'd say, boy, you did a great job soliciting follow. Contact we'll bring you other potential interested parties that want to bid on this, especially at between $24,000 and $45,000. We're not talking about $1,000 here.
We're probably talking about a little more money going the other way.
Yeah. Let's do it the right way.
You know?
I don't think so. We brought it up out of the facility down there with a recommendation.
Yeah, well, we did, Fred, but
These questions wasn't raised
under the assumption that it went through the correct process.
Well, you still have to find out in terms of we all know that. I don't think I've read the dollar amounts into the record, so no. They don't.
You can take it off. Put the dollar in it. You? The public. You may put the public too, so even if they're not right in it. What's our procurement guidelines saying this?
This would be too low in general, Frank, or?
When we talk about cost, I think you should go up to the $15,000.
Well, that's another whole issue, and the other reason that they want to keep them on a relatively smaller basis is so that I personally think so that the board stays involved.
Well, you guys do what you want, but I think you're going to see higher bids next time.
Yeah, probably. And then next time we won't do it this way, it'll be done the right way the first time, and we'll have lower bids.
I thought we went out, because we talked about this, is we directed the state to go out and get some quotes on the demolition on this building.
And they did, because
And they did, and these are the quotes that you got. That's right. And we got a low bidder and a responsible bidder. One of the high-tech people in the state of New York. He's got a license to do this and everything else, and he's going to take it down for $23,672 total bid. That's a good price.
I'm not saying it's not, but it sounds like a lot to me, but it does. Now you got to be talking about calling for roads.
This stuff's all got a little landfill, folks, and you know, he's got the license to do this, and if that happens, you know, you're covered. He's got the insurance, he's got it all. He's doing environmental people. I mean, I don't know.
Well, we got two things.
We'll put it out for, we're gonna pull this and put it out for bid. That's it.
Are there environmental problems with it?
Sure there is. There's a pain in there, maybe?
We had an asbestos survey done on the property, and that survey indicated that there was I think it's referencing here, an 80 square feet of black foundation tar.
So now we're going to hire somebody like these guys to come in and tell you how to bid this. And now we're going to have to make sure it's bid right.
But that's fine. I mean, we can run that through the contract report. It's just, well for bid. May add some more cost.
Now, how do you do that? These people already know they bid 20,
No one knows. No one knows.
No, they know they bid.
They know.
So they can resubmit it if they want.
Now we go back and we say so-and-so,
Issue. I agree. All on it down.
but the process and not the amount?
No, I haven't followed up with anybody because the decision hasn't been made yet.
So I guess the recommendation would be is tell them it's nothing to do with the amount, it's just the process. So maybe they'll
If it goes back out, if it goes out through the contract reporter, I mean,
Watch the back down and kept saying the number. Log on and read about it.
but if we put it out through the contract reporter, I mean, they're under no obligation to hold their price at all. So it'd be a brand new submittal. Because whatever we want to do on this one is.
And I just don't see how we can just violate our policy just to violate our policy. Like, there's a good reason for it, like, for example...
I think we're violating when we went out and asked for prices.
And if there's anything found out there was wrong...
We only got one person that quoted it. I would say, then we gotta go for bid. But there are three people that put a responsible bid in here.
If you were the first person and they were told it was over 10,000 by a significant amount, I would think you'd say, well, hold our horses, we gotta bid this. Instead...
I wanted to do it in-house anyways.
You wanted to knock it down?
I wanted to take and have the OPTEC come up and remove the hazardous material, if there was any, whatever we found, and then we tear it down ourselves. But everybody at that time said, no, we probably shouldn't do that. And Steve thought, and Ray thought that it was too much for our group to do. I had an idea, we just push it.
Yeah, we had a voter last year.
Rail car down below there. I didn't want to spend any money on it.
You take ram it.
There's some asbestos in there, there is, we need to remove. And then you gotta get rid of it. This contractor, you get rid of all of it. You get rid of the shingles, you get rid of everything. So now, I think what you're gonna do on these bid specs is you're gonna go into three different people here. Somebody will remove the asbestos, and then somebody will remove the shingles, and somebody will remove the lead paint.
hazard stuff, whatever. So this one, that's a mark.
That doesn't matter.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, I'm just clarifying whatever the process.
We don't need a bad audit, right?
There's a
right now, we don't need a bad audit.
Yeah, but there's a big other one that we should have never found out. Mary might have known this in there.
If we don't know where a project's going to come in, normally when we do a project, you have a design engineer who gives you an estimate what the construction is going to be. So that kind of tells you you've got to go to contract report or not. In these cases, we don't have that. Yeah, we did our best educated guess. So why don't we just err on the side of caution, just put them all in the contract report if you don't know.
Or when you get the bids, no offense, when they got the numbers that they did and tell them what they're doing, when you get to that number, don't be bringing us a resolution based on that. Stop right there and say, oops, we got to go to bid, so then we won't have an issue of the numbers being covered.
Well, I would have caught this, Mary, in the facilities thing. It wouldn't have got here. I don't think there's any more.
We never asked the question.
Well, now let's back up the truck here. The reason this is for the facility and then the board is the fact the consensus of this board was to demolish that. So we went out and we got the asbestos and lead paint survey. Got the results of that. We needed that before we could go up.
Well, everything was done correctly, except that we didn't
advertise it correctly. That's the only problem.
Well, absolutely clear here, that is, we aren't just going out and violating policy. What we did is we put it out and the numbers came in substantially.
But if you don't know, I mean, if you just don't know, why wouldn't you just put it out contract report or anything? But like you said, they're on the side of concern.
Well, why couldn't they do a little fishing, find out maybe we're talking about numbers in the 20 range and say, well, we'll stop there and put it out. It doesn't mean that they have to always, they could still reach out and talk to people who come by and go, oh, you're talking about, we're talking about 20s there, 30s or 40s, and then stop and
We'll run it through the contract report.
we're going to say we're 15, so, yeah.
Run them both. Mark, going back to the resolution we just passed on the contract, procurement contract policy. So how does that affect? If you're taking your procurement contract.
I got a question. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Where's it covered in your document?
What?
Where is it covered? Where is this particular type of action covered in your procurement policy? It's not a good or service. It's not a personal service.
It's a good or service as well.
Not by your definitions in here.
We have a good or service pertaining to vehicle, building, operation, and maintenance, office equipment, other similar items.
Construction of buildings, not a single rate.
Selection of contracts for goods and services other than personal services should be made only on a competitive basis. Those you're accepting as a personal service. That's what you're accepting as a personal service. Attorneys. Because God knows if we were looking for the cheapest, we wouldn't have hired you. No. But it really says other than. So it's an exclusive term. All-encompassing.
It's there.
So what does that mean then? The second thing is defining amount of procurement contract was changed from 10 to 5. Does that cover this?
No.
We have to go to bid further than 5,000 or over.
No. A procurement contract under definition A,
Okay.
page 2 of this policy, which is page 15. And the top page 3 of the policy is written right from the Public Authorities Law. So the state is defining a procurement contract for the purpose of procuring contracts as an amount of $5,000 or more. So they really don't care what we do with anything $5,000 or less.
It's just saying you need a written agreement.
No, right, and that 5,000 or more, we are held responsible to come up with working ways to procure things. Either board approval, no board approval, but we set all the parameters.
Okay. This is like the rules of play as opposed to...
Yeah, the rule policy we kind of come up with, but they define 5,000 as a procurement contract.
So basically, if you follow that scenario, then you've got to bid everything.
So this is just saying a contract. You have to have a written contract.
Well, aren't you going to have 5,000? Aren't you going to have a written contract and you people after you're done?
Well, yes, but it's two different things. You got procurement policy and procurement contract guideline. Sure, you think. Yeah, no. These are done.
We're set. That's the conclusion of the regular business.
Yes. We don't need executive session, right?
Yes, client negotiations.
Financial negotiations. Okay? Yeah.
Well, we didn't do too good, didn't we?
Okay. We'll learn this business. We're changing. Okay. We need a motion for executive session to move to client negotiations.
Yeah.
For the press, there may be something out of executive session, but I don't know if it's not. So if you want to stay, fine. If not, it comes out of executive session, we'll notify you what it was. But there may be some action. Okay? So, whatever you want to do, you want to hang around, or you want us to call you, so we can do that right after the meeting. So whatever you want to do, just leave us a number to call you, so we'll do that. We need a motion to go into executive session. So move. So move. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Just
Because you know what I was saying, basically, it doesn't cover this particular project. No,